Well, hello there. This is Critical Wade Theory. I'm Wade, and today the question that every sane, honest person got tired of hearing: did the 2020 election get stolen? Short answer, no. Long answer, we need to talk about how that claim keeps circulating even now, why it persists despite mountains of failed legal challenges and audits, and what it does to people and institutions along the way. So let's look at the burden of evidence here. Here's the thing: extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. There were more than 60 failed court cases. Multiple recounts and audits found no significant fraud. Every time someone points to a smoking gun, it turns out to be a misunderstanding, a timestamp on a results feed, or a normal part of how ballots are processed. Yet the rhetoric stays loud even today. When the claim is massive dumps of votes, as Trump so often phrased it, there should be a single verifiable data set showing votes that didn't exist earlier and then appeared. There isn't. Instead, we get county reporting timestamps misread as proof. Timestamps tell you when results were posted, not when ballots were cast. That's a key difference, and it's the kind of detail conspiracy theory thrives on because it's boring to explain but crucial to understand. So let's look at the anatomy of the claims. There are recurring themes: the aforementioned massive dumps, dead voters, so called illegal immigrants voting, and so on. Great headlines, no data. When you press for names, numbers, or concrete examples, the big scary stories fold into routine clerical errors, misfiled registrations, or outright fabrications tracked back to fringe websites. The narrative is not built on substance, it's built on repetition. Say something loudly and often enough, and a slice of the public will accept it as fact, especially if it confirms what they already want to believe. That's how myths become political weapons. Again, that's how myths become political weapons. See, even when I repeated it there, that sentence, that sounds a little bit more true, doesn't it? If you repeat something, it sounds more true. If you repeat something, it sounds more true. So, why it persists has something to do with politics, money, and motive. Let's be blunt about motive. This is not a neutral, disinterested attempt to seek the truth. It is a political tool. It delegitimizes an election result and keeps a base angry and engaged. Angry people donate. Angry people turn up at rallies. Angry people accept a leader who claims victimhood. There's also a grift element. Stop the steal, as they called it. Those rallies and fundraising emails raised enormous sums by promising to fight systemic fraud in court, money that in many cases did not produce the miracles promised. Well, not just in many cases, in seemingly all cases. That the enterprise continued despite legal failures and absent evidence says a lot about what it was designed to do and how effective such lies are, and the power afforded to major political figures like Donald Trump, who can lie and lie and lie and get away with it. In fact, it seems like he only ever tells the truth on accident. But let's also consider the human cost here. Beyond politics and fundraising, there is a human cost. Thousands of election workers, even Republicans, and yes, Democrats, worked long hours under stress to count ballots correctly. They followed rules and procedures. To claim their work was fraudulent without evidence is an insult. It endangers ordinary public servants. many of whom faced threats and harassment for doing their jobs. And there's a broader cost, which is the erosion of trust in institutions. When people accept allegations without evidence, they become open to dismantling the institutions that actually protect democracy. That is not hyperbole, it is dangerous. And yeah, in a roundabout way, I could say that yes, we should question all of the institutions around us, but a lie is a lie. You know, the underlying idea of challenging and questioning things still does not justify lying, and it ends up being as bad as whatever institution you're trying to call into question can be. So, here's how the story survives despite the failure to verify it. Why do these stories survive? Other than Trump himself lying his head off, there are three reasons: complexity, psychology, and narrative incentives. Election administration is technical, it involves processing times, backlogs, provisional ballots, and legal deadlines, things that I wasn't trained to understand. And that complexity is easy to turn into a mystery. Psychologically, people prefer simple explanations that let them keep a consistent view of the world. If you start with the idea that the system is rigged, every anomaly fits that story, and nothing ever disproves it because the standard is emotional, not evidentiary. So, politically, there's incentive to keep the story alive as well. It keeps a certain faction loyal. It provides perpetual grievance to mobilize around. So, where does that leave us? The courts ruled, recounts and audits found no systemic fraud, individual errors were corrected, the votes were lawful and counted. The rest looks like politics wrapped in rumor and marketed as certainty. This isn't just about being right or wrong, it's about respecting the people who ran the election, requiring evidence for big claims, and refusing to let repeated falsehoods calcify into accepted truth. Democracy can survive disagreement, it cannot survive willful ignorance dressed up as truth. Anyway, that about wraps it up for this episode. If you liked what I said, feel free to share it with someone who still believes the massive dump story and ask them to listen with an open mind. If you want more episodes that cut through the noise, feel free to like, subscribe, leave a review, give a comment in the comments section. Again, my name is Wade, and thanks for listening to Critical Wade Theory.